from Budapest. We are here at the Hungaroring. It's the third race weekend of the DTM season 2018, and it's the 8th qualifying coming up right now. And of course, we're very psyched. It's very hot here in Budapest, so let's hope for a hot qualifying.
Well, it certainly is hot, and there are lots of spectators here because qualifying can be just as entertaining as the race. All that fraught fight to the finish at the end of the qualifying session. And here at the Hungaroring, where overtaking is more challenging than at some of the circuits that we visit, it's critical that the drivers put themselves in the best possible position as they head towards the grid. And to do that, they need to succeed in qualifying. We're looking at Timo Glock then, the BMW driver, who of course comes to the Hungaroring having had a rich vein of success heading up to this round. He will be disappointed with his P14 finish. Yesterday he's been in the points for every single race up until this weekend. Of course, took the race win after that epic race at Hockenheim, the race 2. Second place in the Drivers' Championship at the moment for Timo Glock. There is the British driver Jaime Green. Was in contention for the championship with his Audi last year. Some 16 DTM victories for Jaime Green, as you can see. And the car alongside him is the number 33 car, of course, of René Rast, the fellow Team Rosberg driver. This is Pascal Wehrlein then, who finished the race yesterday P13. Again, another one of those drivers that has been in the points for every race up until yesterday. DTM champion, of course, in 2015. The youngest ever DTM champion returns to the DTM from his Formula One forays. And yesterday's race victor, Paul de Resta. Third place in the Drivers' Championship now on 56 points. And Paul de Resta then driver of car number 3 for the HWA Mercedes, taking that win in race 1 yesterday. So there we see René Rast then, double pole sitter here at the Hungaroring back in 2017. He, of course, who was flying through the air with that horrific rollover that we saw at Lausitzring. The same chassis, incidentally, that Audi have rebuilt for René Rast, and he's back out in the car this weekend. And P4 finish for René Rast yesterday. Right at the head of the pit lane is Augusto Farfus. 89 DTM races that Augusto has driven. There is Mike Rockenfeller just behind Augusto Farfus in the pit lane. Was the car of Joel Eriksson, but this is Mike Rockenfeller. 139 DTM races for the hugely experienced Mike Rockenfeller. The number 99 driver, who was just out of the points yesterday, P11. Of course, took that P2 finish in, once again, that epic race, race 2 at Hockenheim, right at the start of the season. From here, the wide open spaces of Budapest, we move after the race this afternoon to the slightly more confined space of the Norrisring. Nico Müller then headed them up in free practice with René Rast P2 and then Jaime Green P3. The best of the Mercedes was Daniel Juncadella, the Spaniard who returns into DTM for this season, and a very welcome returnee. As is the voice that is alongside me, Chris Hartley. As we look at Nico Müller, he's certainly been quick all weekend, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's hit 5 form. Remember, he hadn't scored a point up until he came here this weekend and got that very strong result yesterday. Top Audi driver on the podium. And as we saw, on top of the times in the free practice session this morning, not just on top of the times day, but on top of the times by nearly 4/10 of a second, which
in DTM
normally covers half the field, that, doesn't it?
In DTM, that is a margin and a half, isn't it? Lucas Sauer, the young Austrian driver. Car number 22, Lucas Sauer. Again, very much a championship contender last year. There we can see back to the Team Rosberg drivers of Jaime Green and René Rast. So what tends to happen in qualifying for DTM is a couple of runs, really, because it's short, sharp, only 20 minutes. Drivers go out early on, and then we'll come in and then go out for another run towards the end of the session. It all goes remarkably quickly. We have the green light now and qualifying gets underway. So, Augusto Farfus, then it's Joel Eriksson. There we can see the BMW of Bruno Spengler being followed by the Robin Friends Abd Audi. There is the number 28 car of Loic Duval. Another hugely experienced racer is Loic Duval. Jaime Green not quite out of the garage yet, nor is Rennie Rast. So cars out on track then, and they'll be setting early laps, coming in once again, and then going out towards the end of the session. And boy, don't they leave it late at times. Timo Glock then eager to get out of the garage. So too is two-time champion Marco Wittmann. On board with Timo Glock then for BMW Team RMR. On his way out of the pit lane now. You begin to go downhill before the first turn, which is a right-hander here, and then you continue downhill through that sequence of turns 2 and 3, which does on occasions provide some super side-by-side action. There's Edo Mortara, and there the Lucas Auer car number 22, who we ride on board with now. Give it a footful out of the pit lane now, don't cross the white line. You see the left foot being used for braking then, as generates some temperature in not only to the tyres but to the brakes as well, because that dissipates through the rims onto the tyres, and this is a fantastic shot.
I remember Gary Paffett was saying to me last year, you have to be really careful about how you build up on these tyres. It's really easy to overdo it on the outlap and then cause damage to the compound itself. So you have to sort of be very careful there, didn't you, coming out of the pits, Lucas Auer, gingerly sort of building up the speed, starting to weave the car, but only gradually. So yeah, you don't want to overheat really the tyres really quickly. Yeah, exactly. And anyway, so yesterday, there was some discussion on the radio in qualifying as to whether, actually involving Augusto Farfus, who we're looking at now, speaking to his engineer, trying to find out whether drivers were going for it on the first lap or having a steady first lap and going for it on the second. And it seemed that there were a mixture of the two. The tyres, you can get 2 quick laps out of them, but only if you manage it on that first lap.
And there is Gary Paffett, followed by Paul di Resta, yesterday's race winner then. Paul di Resta is another one of those drivers that's been in the points for every race.
Yeah, maxed out yesterday, didn't he, with the win, and also the 3 points for the pole position.
And yes, that's something that, you know, is very, very worth mentioning, is the fact that P1, 2 and 3 in the qualifying gets you 3 points, 2 points and 1 point respectively for the P1, 2 and 3. And again, it's the banking of as many points as possible. So Augusto Farfus is the first one that we'll run the clock on. Of course, he's showing purple in every sector at the moment. Well, he would, because he's the first one that we're clocking around here. So Augusto Farfus rounds the final turn, then heads to break the timing beam, and he'll give us a time with which to measure everyone else by, a 1:37.7. 1-3 from Augusto Farfus, then the BMW driver. The brakes now going into turn number 1. It's at this section where you really do start to go downhill, and as I mentioned, that sequence of turns 2 and 3 that you're looking into now, I've seen some phenomenal overtakes and some door barging going on through those turns.
It's not bad first lap, actually. 1:37.7. No. That would have been the second quickest time in free practice this morning. So last night, yesterday evening, we had a huge downpour, didn't we, for a couple of hours here. I mean, it was bouncing off the paddock awnings and off the ground, and it lasted for a couple of hours. But today it's actually even hotter than it was yesterday already. The track temperature and the air temperature pushing 30 degrees. It's going to be hotter indeed for the race. So it'll be interesting to see what the times are like compared to yesterday. In qualifying, Paul di Resta yesterday did a 1:37.3, but in free practice this morning, Nico Muller already did a 1:37.4. So we've already got a 1:37.7 on a fairly steady not an outlap, but a first attempt. So I think it could be even quicker than they were yesterday at this rate.
So Augusto Farfus then, who was the one that gave us the first time, and is at the moment still the quickest. It's Rennie Rasti's P2, Pascal Wehrlein, then it's Lucas Auer. Dives into the pit lane now, does Augusto Farfus. He's satisfied with that first lap that he's delivered. So the Brazilian then, here comes Paul Di Resta. Paffett has gone quickest of anyone through Sector 1, now too so has Daniel Juncadella. Now basically, as you look at the graphics at the bottom of your screen, the purple indicator indicates in that particular sector, best of anyone. Green is a personal best. And then a white is, well, tempted to say average. That's really not fair, but it's not an outstanding, it's certainly not a best, whether personal or of anyone. So this is Gary Paffett then, heading towards the timing beam now. Pascal Wehrlein has gone quickest to 1:37.538. Now it's Paul Di Resta with a 1:37.291. Which
is already quicker than yesterday's pole time.
It is. So, and Di Resta did that with 2 PBs and a best of anyone through Sector 2. Here comes René Rast then. He's gone personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. René Rast then breaks the beam now. And he's second fastest. He's 10th and a half behind Paul Di Resta. Jaime Green is on a quick one as well. So at the moment it's Mercedes, then it's Audi, then Mercedes. Best of the BMWs remains Augusto Farfus. Here's René Rast then, current champion. We go on board now with Pascal Wehrlein, really hammering this car now around this Hungaroring circuit. Fantastic to watch these onboard shots. This 4.3 kilometre circuit, 14 turns, 8 of them right, 6 of them left-handers. This is Jaime Green rounding the final of those turns, turn number 14. And he's done PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2, but it's second quickest for Jaime Green. Look, just 6 100ths down on Paul Di Resta, who remains the fastest with a 1:37.291.
Rast set the fastest first sector of anybody, and then Mortara, who's just behind him on the track, went a few thousandths quicker. 35.26 for Rast through Sector 1, 35.23 for Mortara. So expect those two to move up from 4th and 5th if they can keep the lap going.
So we zoom in on Bruno Spengler, former champion then for BMW, but let's go on board with René Rast then, whose middle sector was not outstanding on this occasion. I suspect he'll bail this lap. Sure enough, he does. He comes into the pit lane. This is Lucas Au that we're watching now, who's currently third fastest. Now, he's into the final sector. He did a PB in Sector 1. The middle sector was not brilliant from Lucas, and sure enough, he bails the lap as well and dives in. So the order is Di Resta, Green, Au, then it's Rast, Mortara, Wehrlein, Juncadella, Farfus, then it's Loic Duval and Gary Paffett rounding out the top 10 as we see Robin Frins across the timing line, and he puts himself into P5 in this running order of qualifying so far. This is Jaime Green, who's the second fastest driver out on the track, as you can see. Quicker than anyone through Sector 1, but then lost a bit of time in Sector 2, Chris.
Yeah, that's right, and that middle sector is the critical one, really. It's in terms of the number of corners they take in, that's the longer sector, and Mortara and Rast both failed to improve through Sector 2 all 3, so Rast binned off the lap, as you said, and Mortara was a couple of tenths down by the end of the lap as well.
This man, talk of improvement, 1:37.283, Timo Glock, now P1. And he did that with 3 personal bests, and that was enough. It's stringing every sector together, isn't it? Getting the max out of every sector. Yeah,
it's only if one driver gets the purples in all the sectors that it becomes unbeatable. But of course, you get one driver that's quicker in each of the sectors. A Glock might not have been better than everybody in each sector, but if he's only a few thousandths behind the best sector time, he strings together a very consistent lap, and he's done it.
It's very rare, isn't it, that we actually see purples in every sector. It's very, very unusual. So Glock is quickest, 1:37.283. Then it's Di Resta, then it's Green, then it's Au, then it's Rast. And seeing Timo Glock at the top of the table with that 1:37.283, I was going to say to you, and you and I were going to have a discussion about this, that will give the hope to BMW that they need following yesterday's performance.
And this morning's performance, because in free practice, they were the bottom 6 cars in free practice. They didn't have a single BMW in the points yesterday in the top 10. And we only had 2 at the tail end of the top 10 in qualifying. So they've really been struggling so far this weekend. So it almost feels like that has come out of nowhere for Timo Glock. Then again, he's super experienced, and he was the championship leader before the start of the weekend. He's now lost that. He was only a point clear anyway, but he's now lost that to Gary Paffett, who once again picks up the championship lead because he won the first race of the season. So 79 points for Gary. Timo on 72, Paul de Rest on 56 points now, moving up to third. After that race win, he moved up, 4 places in the championship table. But it's the exception, isn't it, at the moment, because Timo is fastest, and you've got Marco Wittmann is the next best BMW down in 9th place.
And there is the very car. Two-time champion, of course, Marco Wittmann. There is Timo Glock then going into the garage. And as I said, this the qualifying that we see for DTM is kind of run in 2 halves, isn't it? Even though it's only 20 minutes long.
Yes, so Timo, as I said, P1, very solid run. For the second run, standard adjustment, or you think you want to manage on your own for the second set?
Just interesting to hear what the engineer is saying to Timo.
They came in very...
we've lost it.
Check again.
Yeah, just came in.
No, somehow the display was off. And it's back on again. They came in very quickly, I have to say. I mean, the pit lap I had to go very slow. Because I was already second sector on nearly 0. So I would do a slight adjustment as we did in the past, as usual.
Oh, give us a clue, Timo. Slight adjustment. Where? What?
Well,
great to hear that, those radio messages, isn't it? And unlike other motorsport, our team radio is absolutely, totally live. It's worth making that point because sometimes Timo can be very colourful in terms of the words he uses. Didn't on that occasion. Thanks for that, Timo. But there we are. So he's looking for just a slight adjustment somewhere. Seeing him replay here, Robin Frins in the number 4, Abd Audi.
What's your opinion?
He was flying. Literally. A fantastic shot of Robin Frins there. Taking the curb and a bit of air as well. And there is the car now safely parked into the garage ahead of going out for the kind of second run that they do in this qualifying. So Timo Glock currently topping the table with a 137.283. There, all the data. Come on, Chris. What can you read out of that?
Incredible, isn't it? They steady.
Timo's data on the screen now. So time was turned 4.5.
So this is Philip Eng's data, isn't it?
It's showing where the brake, not just where they're braking and accelerating, but the extent to which they're braking, how long they're on the brakes for, how long they're getting on the throttle for, which almost is the bigger difference. You can brake at the right point, but brake too hard or for too long, or not gradually enough. So they look at all these tiny things.
Absolutely extraordinary.
Because you're looking at thousandths of a second.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually the top in the first part of qualifying.
What's the time lost there?
The top 15
it's almost 3:10, so
are in the 37s.
So he's identifying. He's found a key area. Right, this is where I'm losing out. How much did I lose here?
We lose on every single minimum speeder, every single one.
Losing on every medium speed corner, but they're losing 3/10 in one sector, which is huge, isn't it? So now he knows
mainly on the exits.
Exactly where he needs to try and improve.
Total application is later than Timo's.
There you see, his application was later than Timo's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also he has no understeer, so we need to do something.
So we're learning something now, aren't we?
Yeah.
So Philip is suffering with understeer that Timo is not suffering.
He couldn't get on the throttle quickly enough because the car is still running out wide.
Yes,
and
it's still
if he gets on the
pushing
throttle,
on, isn't it?
He's going to be going out wide, even wider, and off the track.
Okay.
So they've figured out the problem. The difficulty is now in solving it in a few minutes to make the car, adequate enough that he can drive around it. It's not just a case necessarily of the driver having to improve. He can only improve if the car is set up right.
Brake bias more forward than we do.
And the big wheel that you can sometimes see in the right-hand side of the car when you have an onboard shot is a turny wheel where you adjust the brake bias. So how much pressure at the
Timo is still
braking at the
forward.
front, how much pressure at the back, isn't it? And Timo's is obviously more forward, as the engineer just explained.
Perfect example of teammates learning from one another.
Yes, it's fascinating. And there is the boss of BMW Motorsport, Jens Marquardt, at the back of the Philipp Eng car. We've just been hearing from Philipp and also Philipp's engineer. As a racing driver, Chris, it's that feedback that is utterly critical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive part of the job these days. You know, gone are the days where you looked at a stopwatch and you tried to figure out gradually over the course of the weekend where you were missing out. We just learned from watching other drivers. Every single thing you do in that car is now recorded, data captured, which is a massive tool because it can learn much, much quicker than just doing it by feel and reaction.
So we await the Nico Müller car coming out of the garage, but out already Marco Wittmann, Jaime Green. Here comes Joel Eriksson, rookie into the DTM this year, like Philipp Eng, yesterday's race winner Paul Di Resta, who's currently second fastest.
Track is clear.
So track is clear now.
Copy, Timo. So out, build, push, try to create a bit of gap. Behind you have space.
That's the critical point into the final few minutes of qualifying. We're less than 4 minutes, Chris. It's when the cars come out now relative to where everyone else is on the track, because you need to find space.
It was like this yesterday, wasn't it? The gap in between the two parts of the session, if you like, even though the clock keeps running, yes. It's normally divided up into two blasts out on track. It's quite a long gap. So again, yesterday they only came out with a few minutes to go, and that is where we saw the improvements yesterday. So this is going to be a critical couple of laps for these drivers. And René Rast is surely going to be one of the drivers as the reigning champion that features in the battle, finishing in a strong 4th place yesterday in that rebuilt car after the huge barrel roll that he suffered at the Lausitz Ring a few weeks ago. Thankfully, which due to the safety of these cars, he was able to walk away from completely unharmed. Incredible.
Just dirt makeup that he was suffering as a consequence. He wore a lot of grass and mud, didn't he? Absolutely incredible. So René Rast, then there is Pascal Wehrlein car. And weaving from side to side, so too is Gary Paffett behind, as you can see in the all-blue Mercedes-Benz. But this is René Rast then. The clock is on Rast, Rockenfeller and Wehrlein at the moment. The first part of qualifying then topped by Timo Glock with a 1:37.283, providing some hope and belief perhaps to BMW, who've had such a torrid time of it here at the Hungaroring, and as Chris quite rightly said, also in free practice, not only in the race yesterday but free practice today. Despite their work overnight, they hadn't quite solved whatever issues they've got, but Timo Glock would suggest that they have got on top of it now. But we still have 2.5 minutes of this qualifying session remaining. And René Rast is the first of those that is going to cross the timing line and give us a time with which to judge in this second part, which will go very, very quickly as some really rather heavy cloud ahead. I was about to say it's not as sunny as it was earlier on this morning. So whether that might fly into the race this afternoon. Here comes René Rast then, who crosses the timing line. Ignore this time. This is the one that matters, that he is on now.
A couple of notable absentees from the top 10. One is the championship leader, Gary Paffett, who's down in 15th. The other is the driver that's been going great guns all weekend long, Nico Müller. He's only 12th. So what's his best time? A 1:37.6, which is 3/10, nearly 3/10 slower than he went in free practice this morning. It could all change on the spin of a coin, though, in this next couple of minutes, can't it?
1 minute 21 seconds remaining. Here comes Bruno Spengler then, who is going to break the timing beam. He was down there in P16. He improves a couple of places, goes up to P14, but still 4/10 down on Glock's best time. Here comes Augusto Farfus then, and Augusto was P13 and doesn't improve. Mike Rockenfeller's on a hot one here, though. As you can see, the purple through sector 1 means quicker than anyone goes Mike Rockenfeller in the Audi now. Up ahead of him, I think it's the René Rast car. So Mike Rockenfeller then, it'll be interesting to see what he's able to deliver through sector 2. You look out for the line that will cross the tarmac. There it is. You can just see René Rast has gone over it, and Rocky lost a little bit in sector 2. Wehrlein is another one that's gone quickest through sector 1. As you made the point, Rast has gone PB sector 1 and sector 2. It's that middle sector that's critical, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Rocky, though, on for a much improved qualifying performance. He was stoned last yesterday on the grid, but the race pace was good. He opted to run very, very long. He was the last one to make a pit stop. Just had about 9 or 10 minutes on fresh tyres at the end of the session. And René Rast has gone top of the times. 1:37.046. 2 tenths clear.
Are we going to see a sub 1:37 time?
I think we might.
4 100ths off. It's possible, isn't it? Here comes Pascal Wehrlein. Is he going to be the driver that delivers it? So the Mercedes-Benz driver, Pascal Wehrlein, youngest ever DTM champion then, rounds the second from last turn. It's the final turn now. He's been quicker than anyone through Sector 1. PB through Sector 2. Heads to break the timing beam now. It's a 1:37.046 that he needs to beat. And he does it, a 1:36.780. It's a huge margin, Chris, relatively.
And you got Robin Frins, who was second, he's third. And Gary Paffett goes second. He was almost at the back then. He's gone almost to the top of the table, into second place with a 1:37.025. Di Resta was on a good first sector. Auer is on a good lap as well. So Auer's got a chance. He had a chance of pole position yesterday.
Mortara's now on P2.
And he's done it. Lukey's gone to the top of the time. 1:36.7. What a lap. Di Resta's still going to improve. I'm not sure it's going to be pole position, but he's not going to be ninth. He's going to be up there in the top 5 or 6, I would say.
P3.
Third place.
So Lukey Auer then with a 1:36.717. Wehrlein with a 1:36.780. Di Resta 1:36.977.
Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And 7th. Not bad.
And the best of the BMWs, it's Glock, isn't it? P8.
Yeah, which is that was their best grid yesterday, wasn't it? With
almost just as I said, are we going to get a sub 1:37?
I think was great traffic management, great car. Enjoy.
Great traffic management there, just acknowledging that the team found him some space on the track, advised him what to do.
Exactly right.
He perhaps could and should have had pole position yesterday, Luke. He was on a flying lap then, and he just got it wrong at turn 9. So, yeah, he's made up for that, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Lucas Auer then 1:36.717, fastest time. But the margin between himself and Pascal Wehrlein is minuscule. I mean, the top 3 are all in the 36s. But interestingly, Chris, Lukey and Pascal are 2 tenths quicker than Paul Di Resta, yesterday's race winner, who's also in the 1:36s, but it's a 1:36.977 for Paul Di Resta. The top 3 all in the 36s, everyone else in the 37s. So
much quicker than yesterday, isn't it? That pace on the track.
Wow.
I guess the rain sort of cleared away some rubber overnight, and then the extra heat this morning, and they've been out for free practice. We've had a Formula 3 race, and then the cloud cover came over, as you said, Dave, just to take a bit of heat away, just to relieve the engines a little bit there, and almost perfect conditions. Fast lap that. 1:36.717, fastest lap of the weekend so far. And Lucas Auer, as he was last year, certainly for most of the campaign, marks himself out as a championship contender.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Terrific effort by Wehrlein as well, wasn't it? Remember, he's been away from these cars for a couple of years. A lot has changed since then. He's a very different beast than what he was used to driving when he won the title before going off to Formula 1. And, you know, he's still not 100% comfortable with the cars, but he's getting there, I would say. Second place. Great effort. And Paul Di Resta will be pleased because he was... sort of yesterday, it was like, yes, I've won the race, but we seem to keep struggling on a Sunday. So I'll be happy. I'll be really happy if day 2 goes as well as day 1. And he's not in pole position, but he's not far away, third on the grid.
So there is Paul Di Resta. Just seen Lukey Auer get out of the car. He looked a very different individual getting out of the DTM car as he did getting into his rental car last night. He was parked quite close to us. And, to see a racing driver like Lucas Auer driving something like the rental car that he was driving, I'm not going to say what it was, but it's not what I expected to see him in. Confirmation then of the result for qualifying for race 6. Lukey Auer then 1:36.717 P1. Then it's Pascal Wehrlein, Paul Di Resta, Edo Mortara, Gary Paffett, René Rast, Daniel Juncker-Daya. Best of the BMWs is Timo Glock, P8. Nico Müller and Jaime Green round out the first 5 rows. Then it's Robin Frins, Augusto Farfus, Loic Duval, Marco Wittmann, Philipp Eng, Mike Rockenfeller, Joel Eriksson, and Bruno Spengler will be bringing up the rear of the grid. There is Lucas Auer. You can see Pascal Wehrlein just to the left of the picture, but Lucas Auer, the man that has delivered 1:36.717. And just as we were saying, are we going to get a sub 1:37 time? Pascal Wehrlein delivered that, but then it was rapidly beaten by Pascal Wehrlein. Here comes Super Slow-Mos to the top 3. So Pascal Wehrlein then is P2. Let's hear from him.
Pascal, it's all about Mercedes today in the qualifying. Obviously, you've got a P2, so you excited about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just a bit angry about yesterday, because yesterday I was nearly 1 second off the pace, and there was an issue on the car which we couldn't fix for yesterday. So for today we changed many parts on the car, and we saw something in the data. But you know, it's a shame that you can see how much potential we have, and if the car is right, we are just always in front. So a bit angry about yesterday, but very happy about today.
All right, go get him, Tiger, in the race, and now back to you.
Go get him, Tiger, with that big hair that Pascal has chosen to adopt this year. Already, he and I have had some rib taking over that. Came back at me like a good one and said, at least I've got some, Dave. Fair point, isn't it? Yes. Here comes the grid then for race 6 to come this afternoon. An all-Mercedes front row. Lucas Sauer and Pascal Wehrlein, P1 and P2.
Second row of the grid, yesterday's race winner, Paul di Resta and Edo Mortara.
Well, the Mercedes field continues all the way to P5 with Gary Paffett. Then we see an Audi. It's René Rast who will be going from P6.
The last of the Mercedes is still 7th, Daniel Hunkadea, and the second place in the championship man, Timo Glock, alongside.
Nico Muller and Jaime Green complete an all Audi 5th row of the grid.
And then starting 11th and 12th, Robin Frins and Augusto Farfus.
As we move to the 7th row of the grid, we find Loic Duval and two-time champion Marco Wittmann alongside him.
Then on row 8, Philip Eng and Mike Rockenfeller. A bit higher up the grid than yesterday, but still with work to do.
And bringing up the rear, it is the rookie Joel Eriksson, and alongside him the experienced Bruno Spengler. So a great shot there of the 3 stars in terms of qualifying. P1, P2 and P3. Lucas Sauer, Pascal Wehrlein and Paul di Resta, and 3, 2 and 1 points respectively for that achievement in qualifying. And René Rast, he looks a bit disappointed, doesn't he? P6 for René Rast, and you can also see Joel Eriksson walking down there as well. All the drivers, in fact, in the pit lane there. Big number of spectators here to enjoy not only the qualifying performance, but also the race to come this afternoon. Thoroughly looking forward to that as Paul di Resta is congratulated. What can he do from P3? You wouldn't set a win against him, that's for sure. Uli Fritz for Mercedes-Benz is very happy indeed. Please make sure you join Chris Hartley and myself for the race to come this afternoon.
So amazing Mercedes-Benz dominance here in the 8th qualifying of the season. And of course, we're looking forward to the race. Let's see what that brings. Make sure to watch the race in a bit. So see you then. Here are the highlights of the qualifying. Enjoy and see you in a bit.